I watched the footage of this a few times just to actually let it sink in, because that number, 71, kept messing with my head the whole time I was watching. A 71-year-old woman just became the fastest person alive in her entire age category, 60 meters indoors, on an actual world championship stage. And look, I want to be straight with you right away. This isn't some cute little feel-good segment about an older lady who still likes to jog. This is a legitimate, official world record, set by a woman who was told at 19 years old that her running career was already over. So the real question I want to actually answer here is the one in the title. Is 71 just a number? Or is there something real out there actually limiting people once they hit that age? And I think once you hear this whole story, you'll have your answer. Let's go all the way back to the beginning, because this story does not start on a podium. Ottawa, decades ago. A teenager named Wendy is already on provincial teams, already on junior national teams, already living the exact life a future champion is supposed to live. Then a serious injury hits her at 19, and the diagnosis comes back final. Running is done. And most people hear something like that from a doctor at 19 years old, and that's just it, story over. That's exactly what it was for her too, for a long, long time. She gets married, she has kids, she becomes a full-time teacher, working in a high-need school filled mostly with immigrants and refugees, and she throws every single ounce of herself into that life for close to 3 decades. No track, no competition, a completely different life, built somewhere else entirely, far away from anything resembling a finish line. And I think this is the part people rush past too fast when they hear this story, because this isn't a woman who kept training quietly on the side the whole time just in case. She was fully, completely gone from the sport for almost 30 years. The first crack in that door comes almost by accident. Her son is training with the Ottawa Lions, and one day he mentions, half joking, that there are some old people hanging around at the end of practice, and maybe she should go hang out with them. She brushes it off completely. Eventually, though, she finally runs one race, just 100 meters, and by her own admission, it's bad. The finish line never came. That's literally how she describes it. But right after that terrible race, a master's coach named Marta comes running down from the stands, peppering her with questions. Where do you train? Who do you train with? Do you want to come tomorrow night? Wendy tells her no to all of it. She's busy, a house full of people depending on her, a full-time teaching job. So when Marta pushes on whether she'd train with the group, Wendy half-jokingly says the only time she could possibly train is between 2 and 4 in the morning, fully expecting that to end the whole conversation. She doesn't sleep that night, and the very next morning, she's backing her car out of the driveway wearing whatever counts as track clothes in her closet. And even in that exact moment, she already knows this is going to change her whole life. That return happens at 50 years old, over 20 years ago from right now. And one of the clearest early signals comes not long after she restarts, back at the school where she teaches, climbing a staircase she used to run up and down constantly without thinking twice. She'd only been off for the summer, 2 months, and by the time she reaches the top, she's genuinely winded, wondering if this is what people mean when they say old age creeps up on you. Instead of backing off after a scare like that, she leans harder into training. And honestly, I think that decision right there is the real hinge point of this entire story. Now here's the part I actually want to spend the most time on, because I think this is the real answer to the title question. Wendy says plainly in her own words that she believes she is stronger and faster right now than she was when she restarted at 50. Not close to it, actually faster. She's upfront that physiologically at some point her body has to slow down. There's no fighting that reality forever. But she's built targeted strength training specifically to offset that natural decline. So even as her speed wants to fall, her strength is rising to cancel a chunk of that loss out. In her own words, she's slowing down slowly instead of falling off some steep cliff all at once. And she's careful to give credit exactly where it belongs. Her coach, her physiotherapist, a man she straight up calls some kind of wizard, her sports medicine doctor, Daryl Minard, her training partners. She says outright there's nothing biologically unique about her, that this is a program built by people who understand more than she does. And I think that's the actual answer here. Age on its own isn't the real ceiling. Having zero system built around you as you get older, that's the real ceiling. Now let's actually look at what that program produced, because the numbers speak for themselves. Across 2025, Wendy breaks her own W70 world record in the 100 meters multiple times inside a single year, dropping it from 14.64 to 14.54 to 14.44. At the Canadian Masters Championships that same year, she runs a Canadian record of 14.41 in that exact same event. In the 200 meters, she wins a national title in 31.11 seconds, finishing more than a second and a half ahead of the runner-up. And at that level, that's not a close race. That's a full statement. Then in March of 2026, at the Canadian Masters Indoor Championships at York University, she breaks the world record in the women's 70 to 74 category in the 60 meters indoor. Officially the fastest woman alive in that entire age bracket. And this wasn't even the first time she'd taken that spot. specific record either. She'd already broken the previous version of it narrowly down in Canton, New York, not long before. Twice, inside a short stretch, she becomes the fastest woman on Earth at that exact distance. What she says about actually holding a record is honestly the part that sticks with me the most. She opens up about it plainly, admitting she also broke the 100-meter world record at one point, and that somebody has since broken it right back off her. And there's no bitterness at all in how she talks about it. She just says that's not something you own. That's something you hold on to for a while, and then it becomes somebody else's turn. Standing in the moment you find out you're the fastest person alive at a given distance, she describes it as bizarre, exhilarating, almost impossible to fully process. And her very first instinct in that moment isn't even about herself. It's about every single person who helped get her there. Honestly, that's a genuinely rare mindset for somebody who just made history, zero ego attached to it at all. And I have to bring up Olga Kotelko here too, because I think her story matters just as much as Wendy's own numbers do. Olga was a friend of Wendy's, a legend inside the Masters track world, and she didn't start this sport until she was 70 years old. She discovered how fast she actually was playing softball in an old people's league, and somebody eventually told her, why don't you try track? And she'd never even heard of Masters track before that. Now she's remembered as one of the greats in that entire scene. And I think that name alone kills the excuse that this only works for people who were already athletes once before, because Olga started from literally nothing at 70 and still became a legend in the sport. Also think the community piece of this deserves real weight, because it explains exactly why any of this was sustainable for over 20 straight years. Masters track has no tryouts. It's open to any ability level, any background, any age. Wendy trains right alongside people young enough to be her grandkids, and she says they treat her exactly like an equal, not like a novelty or a mascot to show off. She describes running itself in almost childlike terms, chasing the wind, feeling completely free, nobody able to catch her, the same exact feeling she remembers as an actual kid running home for lunch. That feeling, more than any medal sitting in a drawer somewhere, sounds like the real engine driving all of this. And honestly, watching how people reacted to this story, I feel the same pull everybody else clearly does. People calling her Queen Wendy, calling her the OG, calling her straight up inspiration, asking directly how they can find a Masters track program themselves after hearing all of this. Athletics Canada themselves framed her story with one simple question: at what point is it too late to start? And their own answer lands exactly where this whole story points. There really isn't a point like that at all. And I don't think that's just hype talk either. I genuinely think that question is worth sitting with if you've been scrolling around thinking you already missed your window on something you actually wanted to do. So let's bring this all the way home. A doctor told a 19-year-old girl that running was over for her permanently, no coming back from it. 52 years later, that same woman is the fastest person alive in her age category in the 60 meters, still adding new world records, still saying out loud that she believes she's stronger now than she was 20 years ago when this whole second chapter of her life even started. She's already told us herself she plans on slowing down slowly, not stopping altogether. I rest my case. Let me know in the comments what age you personally think is too late to start something, because I read every single one of them. And as always, fast is a lifestyle, and if you rock with what we're doing here, go ahead and like and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it.